Greetings, everyone. This is Light of Tabor. I'm your host, Mark Rattel, and today we have a very special episode and a very special guest. Today we have hEllolisTENER. He's an Orthodox Christian, an artist, and a musician. And thank you so much for being with us today, hEllolisTENER. How's it going?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I'm excited. It's been a long time since I've done one of these, so should be interesting.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've done anything like this either, actually.
Yeah, the way I ran into your channel was that stream you did with Julian of the Crew of Good Juju. I think that's how you
Yeah.
say the name of his channel. But I really enjoyed that talk you guys had together. I thought it was really cool, and I started checking out your channel after that, and I was like, hey, he seems like he's into like weird hip hoppy abstract art and music like me. So I was like, we'd probably have a pretty good conversation. So
Yeah.
I decided to reach out and invite you on.
Yeah, same here. I saw you after I think you commented on something, and then I started talking to you, I think in the chat with either on Julian's channel or on mine, and I was like, and then I saw and you had a channel and everything. A lot of people are just users, but you had an
Right.
actual channel and everything. I was like, oh, we should collab. We're both Orthodox, I think it seems like we have a lot in common, so
Yeah.
that'd be fun.
No, definitely. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to today's talk. I start every one of these with pretty much the same question. I have different questions throughout, but I like to start it at basically with, so where did your journey with Christianity start, and were you raised in a Christian household?
I was raised in a Christian household. My mother was, she kept us going to church pretty regularly when I was very young. And I started to grow out of it once I hit puberty. And it was just like a regular sort of evangelical type church.
Okay. Do you remember if it was any particular denomination or non-denominational or nah?
It was called St. John's EC Church, and I forget what EC stands for.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah,
If it's
I'm looking it up, but it's something like Evangelical Communion or something like that.
okay, cool.
Yeah,
That's what's
but
up. Yeah.
I started going there, and we went there for a long time in my childhood, but then I just kind of, I don't know, kind of wandered away from it.
Yeah, I was originally raised Roman Catholic. I went to St. John of the Cross and
Oh,
attended. Yeah, we used to. That was over in Lemon Grove in San Diego, where I used to live. I'm up north a bit now, but yeah, I used to attend like daily with my mother. I would walk with her like every day. She was super devout, like a very devout Roman Catholic, and I attended private school there till like I think seventh grade was my first year of public school. And literally the first day of public school, I was smoking weed. Like day one, I'm smoking weed for the first time. It was kind of interesting. It was like it was an interesting journey. But yeah, I fell away from Catholicism as well for all kinds of reasons. But people
yeah.
tend to rebel in their teens anyways. And yeah, it was an interesting journey. But I
Where
wanted
was
to
this
ask
at?
what was that?
Where was this at?
This was in like San Diego kind of, but
Oh, okay.
Lemon Grove to be specific. Yeah, it was St. John of the Cross Roman Catholic
That's funny.
school.
We both went to St. John churches. Mine wasn't Catholic though. Maybe it was what's that? No, what's that one? The one that broke off of Anglican. Episcopalian. Maybe it was Episcopalian.
Oh yeah. That's what I was gonna say with the EC. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask, why did you choose what inspired you to choose Saint Anthony the Great as your patron saint?
That was actually weird. I'm kind of a scatterbrained person, to be honest, and I didn't even know that I was supposed to choose a saint. And
Right.
so as I was received into the church, my wife had already chosen a saint. She already knew who she chose, and I didn't realize. And so my priest, he says, "So who are you choosing as your saint?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know." And so my middle name's Anthony. And so that I told him that, and he said, "Oh," and then he chose for me. He chose Saint Anthony the Great for me.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I really like Saint Anthony. He was the patron saint of the community that I was baptized in, Saint Anthony's Antiochian Orthodox Church down in San Diego. That's where me and my whole family were baptized into the faith. My mother, my wife, and my son and my daughter all at
Oh, that's
once. I think yeah, it was pretty awesome. It was pretty cool. There was, I think we set a record for like the most people baptized into that particular parish at once. I think it was like 16 or something.
wow.
So that
When
was,
was
it
that?
was pretty, this was when was it? Like 2022. I had a long um catechesis. The thing's kind of, it's kind of funny. It's similar to your story where I didn't really know. Like I came in as an inquirer and I thought I was like a catechumen. I didn't know there was like a difference between inquirer and catechumen. So I'm going around and I'm like, yeah, I'm a catechumen. They're like, oh, I didn't know you had your catechumen ceremony. I'm like, what ceremony? And like and like so I found out you have to have like there's a catechumen ceremony. I didn't even know for like almost like 6 months or so. And then so but then we kind of took it slow from there too, just because I wanted to be sure of what I was getting into. And because I had taken a lot of missteps along the way, and like my wife was following me, and I just felt bad, like I was misleading her and all this
Yeah,
like new age and through Protestant churches that weren't working out, that just were kind of, you know how it can be, and like just preaching things that didn't make sense, and they were kind of, it was starting to bother us a lot, and I just felt like I wasn't being a good leader for my wife, and it bugged me, and I just wanted to be sure that I was moving in the right direction, but God kept confirming like over and over in like multiple different ways that this is where I'm leading you, like very
yeah,
clearly, like very explicitly. I wish I would have written down all the I guess synchronicities you would call it. I try to be careful with that word these days, but I think it all happened under God's providence. But there was some really unique situations where I felt like God was speaking to us very directly and being like, "This is where I'm leading you guys."
yeah. Same here.
Cool. So what inspired you to create Colossal Squid Records, which is a pretty rad name for a record company?
Thanks. Yeah, I started that. It was in my head for maybe maybe 6 years before I finally made it. Like an official thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I made it official in, I want to say 2016 in Brooklyn, and I started signing other artists, and it was just other artists that I appreciated, and we were all kind of small and relatively unknown, and so I thought we would create a sort of collective and start building around that. Um,
Right.
and so I did a huge uh, I did a huge launch party in Brooklyn at this place called the Gateway. I don't know if it exists anymore, but
Okay.
and then I had some weird stuff happened there, but eventually it kind of blossomed and became like a thing where I was producing a bunch of artists, and I had different artists on the label, and so it was just always kind of like, it was kind of always my idea for my life anyway. It just didn't come into fruition till around 2016 in New York. But I always kind of had it in my head that that was something I wanted to do.
Right, right. What was it like out in Brooklyn? I've never been there, but it always kind of fascinated me just being like a hip hop head growing up. I grew up on a lot of hip hop from the East Coast as a youth.
Oh
What was
yeah,
it like out there in Brooklyn?
it was kind of it's kind of just I don't want to say dystopic. It was nice in a sort of fun hell sort of way, like a
Fun hell sort of way.
you
That's
know what I
fun.
mean? Like it was, you kind of liked it, everyone was kind of young and into art and doing different things, and so it was a great place to like, you know, make music and stuff like that. But there was also a lot of there was a lot of the stuff that we all have to deal with now, with like the liberal stuff started to get really huge over there, and all of a sudden it was I didn't like it there anymore. Like at first I thought it was cool, we had this
Yeah.
cool multicultural thing, but then it turned into the multicultural thing and white people, and everyone just hated me. And it was like, I don't like it here anymore. I don't want to be here. Like, this isn't fun. So but before that it was cool. But there's always an element in Brooklyn like where you feel like you're like, this is an open air prison. Like at any moment they could shut down 2 trains and a bridge and you're locked in. Like there's nothing you could do. And I always felt that, like I always felt a little trapped, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, I never been out there, but I spent my whole life in San Diego, like 37 years, till we recently moved up north a bit. Now we're in a more kind of like less city-like area, just very country. I kind of dig it. It's a nice change of pace after 37 years in San Diego. I mean, I love San Diego, don't get me wrong, but it's just there's an energy there ever since the whole like pandemic, whatever you want to call it thing. Like it's just people drive like they want to die, and just like, I don't know, you could just feel it. You could feel that there's like a spirit of something flowing around. You could see it on the freeway. You could hear it in people. It's like people just, I don't know, a lot of people have seen to just have given up and really spiritually kind of unwell,
Well, 2020 was like a pivotal moment where you had to either double down on your trusting of authority or recognize that there's more to life than the sum of its parts. Like everybody had to. So I think everyone who was down a dark path began going down a darker path, and everyone who was going towards God, it kind of solidified a lot of things for people where it was like, we can't rely on the world at all. Like it was fun. We had this illusion that this world was stable and that we had something that was going to last, and we put a lot of stock in it. I did, and 2020 made a lot of people realize it was like, if you want to continue enjoying this, you have to play the game. And so it was a real do or die moment for a lot of people. So I could imagine in certain areas people doubling down. At the same time, I've seen a lot of people becoming a lot more conscious of truth and of Jesus. So it's kind of gone, it's definitely like we're not co-mingling anymore. We're definitely starting to split into 2 very separate directions.
Yeah, no, I totally see that. It was, I think a lot of people realized that the reality of evil, around 2020, and started questioning if evil's real, like what's on the other side of this, and there's different people searching for truth in different areas. A lot of these people have been like disillusioned with Protestantism or even Roman Catholicism, and they're like, so they're looking for that mystical element, maybe in Eastern spirituality or in New Age. A lot of people are going through New Age stuff since then, and still to this day. And I was too, kind of like still kind of in the midst of that in 2020. I was definitely still in New Age, coming to the end of that part of my life. I was into Kundalini yoga and psychedelics and all that kind of stuff for about, I don't know. I mean, I had 2 different stints with psychedelics. I did them earlier when I was like a skateboarder just for fun. And then I tried to revisit it, and I was like, now I'm going to do it the right way. And I'm going to like take it serious. And then I'm going to like learn the secrets of the universe or something. I don't know what I was thinking, man. But I thought I was going to do it. I thought I was going to do it the right way. And I was going to mix it with my Kundalini yoga. And I was so locked in. And I was like, man, we're going to figure this thing out, and it sent me down a dark path, a really dark path. But I mean, I by God's grace, I ended up in a better place. It just took me going to a really, really, like literally like hell, like it was nuts. It was nuts. But I don't want to go too much into that right now. But anyways, what are some of your musical influences? Some that led you to start creating music and have been a big influence on you.
You know, I was thinking about this recently because I've been like convinced that I'm this very unique individualistic artist who has just emerged out of nowhere, and I don't sound like anybody else. But I've been thinking about it, and I've kind of like, you know, been prideful about that. But I've realized recently, like, you can hear my influences in my music. Like, you can hear the people, you can hear Boards of Canada, Plaid, Nine Inch Nails, Radiohead,
Okay.
Timbaland. You know, a lot of 90s, a lot of people that were doing cutting edge stuff in the 90s, Square Pusher.
You mean Timbaland from like Timbaland and Magoo?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I like Timbaland. I like Timbaland, dude. He's underrated, man. That album they dropped was pretty fire, actually.
Yeah, I was really obsessed. Well, I just love Timbaland's production. Like, anything that he was producing, I would buy. Whether which got me into like Aaliyah, Missy Elliott, Genuine. Like anyone.
I like all those. I like all those. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So he was influenced. But I was always mainly drawn towards sonics. Most artists I didn't care for. I really liked when it came to actual like songs, not just production. I really got into Radiohead a lot, like for years, and then I kind of stopped after a while, but for a good stint, I was really into Radiohead.
I love Radiohead.
Yeah, these are just like the upfront stuff. Like, you know, there's a lot of stuff in the background, but yeah, there's a lot of the Warp artists. I that was like a big thing for me, was like trying to get signed to Warp. I almost did, but the CEO quit, and I read his email on stream recently where he's like, "Sorry, dude, deal's off. I quit and moved back to London," and that was like.
That was his message to you?
Yeah. It was devastating.
Oh, man. That is kind of devastating. Sorry, bro. I quit. Peace out.
It was just over. Yeah. They just stopped me. But, yeah, I'd say that was the only label I ever tried to get signed to. I was, like, really obsessed with Warp. Oh, Bjork. Bjork's a huge
Bjork, dude. Bjork's a trip, man. She's great. She's awesome, though. I really like her.
Yeah. I was obsessed with her. I bought every album, every bootleg. Back when you bought CDs, I used to buy every bootleg. I have posters of her. I was kind of obsessed with Bjork for like a while.
Yeah. No, most people that like Bjork are usually pretty obsessed with her.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, it's hard not to. I mean, I had a friend. Oh my gosh, there's like people. Not to get dark, but.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's a lot of people who have done like some crazy things because of Bjork, or not because of her, but over her. There's people who like killed themselves on live stream because of her.
Oh, that one dude, that stalker dude.
Yeah, I think he was an ex-boyfriend who like fell apart because she started dating Goldie. I had a friend, and I don't want to say too much, but I had a friend who I like I went to a community college for 1 year, and we kind of like connected, and he liked Bjork and I like Bjork, and I was like, you very rarely meet other people who like Bjork, especially men. Right. It's a very feminine sound, you know, so it's like, you know, I don't know. It's so the fact that I met this other guy who was into it, I thought he was this really cool guy, and then like he went off the deep end, and like I think he committed like a double homicide, and he went crazy. So
Lord of mercy.
I don't really listen to Bjork now. Like, I was really into her at that point, but yeah, there is some weird stuff concerning people who listen to her.
Right.
To be honest.
There was this one track you made that it's been stuck in my head, dude. It's like really catchy. It's I think it's called Completely Alone.
I think I wanna be completely alone.
that the name of the track? Man, I really like that track. What was the inspiration behind that track?
Inspiration. I mean,
or is it pretty straightforward? Like you just wanted to be completely alone?
well, yeah. I mean, the label was moving, and I was doing a lot of shows, and I just felt like I've always had this feeling like I can't be myself around other people. It's like I find it very difficult, and
right.
So there's always just been this kind of thing going on where I find it very difficult being around people, and it's gotten easier since I've become Orthodox, because I've found people that are like me, but still it's always there's a pull to other people, and it's hard for me to resist it. I always find myself trying to ingratiate myself to people and mirroring them, and it's almost like my identity is like really fragile, and so I have to I always kind of retreat and try and spend most of my time alone, to be honest. And
man,
so
I totally feel you on that. Like when I get around people with an accent, I'll take on their accent sometimes, and my wife will have to point it out to me. She'll be like, "Why are you talking with a Southern accent?" And I've heard you mention this before too, but I was like, "Dang, that really I don't know what to make of it." But I don't know. I think I'm just a lot more easily influenced than I realize.
Yeah, and it's like it sucks to admit that, you want to be like this hard-coded guy, but it's like I'm not. Like people influence me. I feel like this tangible pull when I'm around other people to ingratiate myself to them. I mirror the way they talk, and it just makes me feel like, who am I? Which is what kind of why I like doing the show, is because it's like an attempt to find an answer to that question. I don't feel like I'm doing anything social when I'm doing the show. I'm just kind of ranting and being crazy, and it's very freeing. That's why I kind of love doing it.
Yeah, no, I dig the style of the way you present your content. I don't know how to explain it, but it is very free, and it just seems like I don't know what to say, how to explain it, but I resonate with it a lot. I like it, and it's pretty cool. But you brought up Orthodoxy, so we might as well transition into how did you come to Holy Orthodoxy? How'd that come about?
Well, for me, it was a long road. I talked a little bit about some of that stuff on Julian interview, but to
yeah, and I mean, feel free to take like the long explanation route if you want. Like, I wouldn't mind. I think, but whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Well, I did. So I kind of got into psychedelics and stuff like that as well, and not heavily. I was very because marijuana always had a really strong effect on me. I think it's because I was on Adderall as a kid, and so I was essentially mixing all of these things, and so I would hallucinate off of marijuana pretty heavily, and I had a lot of pretty insane experiences from that, which kind of they changed me, to be honest. But
did you have any like demonic experiences?
Yeah, but I didn't recognize them as that at the time. Right now, it's clear as day. I think I talked about it in a stream a couple weeks ago, because I don't remember how I got into it, but it was like I had an experience once at a friend's house where, oh gosh, it was like the room turned dark and I was full of fear, and then something happened and I embodied the fear, and I became a different, it was like I became possessed, and my personality changed drastically. It was a psychotic situation. I don't want to get too into it, but it was a psychotic situation, and it was like I wrestled with it for years. It kind of changed the way I approached reality. It was almost like it made me a sociopath. Like I just stopped caring about other people. Before that, like I was a lot more empathetic and a lot more, but it was like something happened and all of a sudden I felt like I'd unlocked the secrets of the universe, and the secret was nothing matters, of course.
Right,
And
right.
I became convinced that I was of the elite few who understood that there would be no consequences to my actions, and therefore I could do whatever I wanted. And so it was like as demonic as it could possibly get. Now I didn't
Right.
go off into a bunch of evil crap, but I talked to people like it changed how I talk to people. And it was, and it led to a bunch of really dark things happening in my life. I lost a lot of people and stuff like that, and all of this kind of happened around the same time, which then led me kind of in the opposite direction towards spirituality, towards trying to figure out these things. So I ended up getting into Buddhism and you know uh you know Eastern stuff. Like I went to India to find a guru, and I went like really deep into this stuff. But
What was that experience like going into Eastern spirituality, like going to India and trying to find a guru? How did that all work out?
well, it was kind of crazy because like I yeah, just say okay. So my wife's here. I'm just like, should I just say everything? Okay. So I had like a really shortly after the thing with my um that demonic thing, within a couple months my whole life fell apart.
Lord have
All these
mercy.
crazy things happened to me, and it was like um it kind of switched how I had, because of the car accident and because I had some money because of life insurance, and I ended up getting like $50,000, and I was like 18, 19. I think I was 19 years old. I didn't know, I had no family. Everybody was gone. And I just had $50,000. And I was like,
Wow.
and I was recovering from being possessed and just like all sorts of, so I was about as messed up as you could possibly be, and so I was willing to entertain anything. And so I took a
Yeah.
big chunk of that money and just went to India. And in India, it was the most psychotic thing ever. Like I went there and it was like, um, the first night I ended up in these temple ruins on a mountain overlooking the ocean in Goa, India, and there was like a rave there,
Oh wow.
and they were playing like this crazy didgeridoo Goa trance type stuff, and I ended up smoking something with some guy and then wandering off in the jungle and getting chased by uh, people, by dogs and men on motorcycles. At one point, I got cornered in a hut by some guys who were clearly possessed, and I watched their eyes change. It was, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
bro, it was so crazy. And that was just the first night. All of this was the first night. And so
Jeez.
I got home at the end of it to
Yeah.
this hotel that it wasn't a hotel, it was like somebody's room that I was renting. And I came back and the guy was waiting for me outside. And he said, everything you're looking for, you're not going to find the spirituality that you're looking for here. Jesus is the answer. And this is in
Wow.
India. Yeah. And
Was that still on day one?
yeah, that was that morning. Like I'd gotten out of the
Wow.
woods. I hid in the woods from men on motorcycles and dogs. So I was
Wow.
hiding in the woods, laid low for like an hour or two. Finally, when I felt like the smoke was clear, when the light started to come up that morning, I like kind of like by the grace of God found my way back to this small house that I was staying at. And the guy was just waiting for me, and he was like, yeah, everything, the spirituality you're looking for is not, you're not going to find it. Jesus is the answer. And so that was my first day in India.
That is insane. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then it just went it went off the rails from there. I at that point I didn't know what to do, so I just kind of I went all over. I went to Mumbai, to Delhi, to Mikliad Ganj, which is where the Dalai Lama lives, and I saw the Dalai Lama, and he waved to me. I was like, the Dalai Lama waved to me. I played hacky sack with some monks in some village somewhere, and I was walking to everybody. I would walk up to all these monks, and I was asking them, "Have you achieved enlightenment? Have you
Right.
achieved?" And everybody just looked at me like I was crazy. What is this guy talking about? And then some British guy comes up to me, he goes, "These guys don't know what they're doing. That all they're doing is deadening their minds. Come with me. I'll show you how to find God." And and so I get in this. I don't know. I just did everything. So I got in this
Yeah.
car with this Jeep, and we drive along these mountains. I guess they're what mountain range is it in India that separates it from Tibet? Himalayas. So we're driving through the Himalayan mountains in this Jeep and there's like cliff sides everywhere. And then we end up at like just this sandy cliff with like a small house not a house, like a shrine in it. And it was to this woman. And he's like, pray to this woman. And her name was like Devi something. I looked it up a couple of years ago, and it's like a known cult. And I wasn't into that sort of thing. I was like, pray to this lady? I'm not going to do that. And I think I sat there and was like, kind of waited an appropriate amount of time. And I have like flashes of things like that. I don't remember how I got out of these situations. I don't remember how I got home. I don't remember how I got away from the two guys with guns who were walking towards me. Like, I think they had guns. They were acting like they had guns. I didn't see the guns, but
Right, but they were like motioning towards something in their waistband or something to that effect.
yeah. And I have like little flashes of that, but it's like, how did I get home? I have no idea. I just somehow made it back. But I was only there like 2 weeks. I was planning on staying there for like months and joining an ashram or something. And instead, it was a 2-week thing. And I went home just like, I'm so lucky I don't live in India. I was just so glad that I could like have a job. Half the people there just wished they could work, and there was no work at all. So I just went home and started to appreciate what I had a lot more.
That reminds me of like Dakota of Wint. I don't know if you're familiar, or Dakota Wint, Dakota of Earth is his channel. He's like he's kind of into new age spirituality. He's totally into new age spirituality, but he's constantly out there in India, and like he loves India, but it's a mess too. And there's like all this litter and like poop on the streets, and like it's wild out there. And then they got the Agoris. The Agoris. He's always like talking to the Agori people, and they rub like dead people's ash on themselves, and they kind of meditate on dead bodies. They hang out next to this like ancient flame that's been burning for like thousands of years or something, where they burn these bodies and turn them to ash, and they kind of do these weird rituals in these areas. But what's up?
This is in India?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. It's like these group of people called the Agori. They're like really, I think they believe like the more messed up stuff you do, like the more like the darker things you do, the closer you get to God. I think that's their belief, if I'm not mistaken.
Gee whiz. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me. There was a lot of weird. I went to a Jainist temple, and they were like worshiping rats.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I went to the one nice thing. I went to Amritsar, which is the Sikh capital of the world.
Oh, okay.
And I met this wonderful man named Indojit Singh. He must have been my age at the time, like 20 or something. And he was in the temple in Amritsar. There's this beautiful temple, and it's like all white. And then I think the temple itself is gold. And I just happened to befriend these musicians who 24/7 there are people playing music to God in this temple. They don't know. I don't think they know who God is. I don't think their theology is very strong, but
Right.
they're not Muslim, they're not Hindu, they reject all that stuff, but they do believe in a God. And it was
I've
surprising.
actually I've actually met a Sikh person for the first time in this area I moved to, and he's really, really cool people. Really,
Yeah.
really good guy. And it's just I talked to him about orthodoxy and theology, and we just kind of talk, and he's just I really enjoy our interactions.
Oh, dude, I
Just
tell
on
you, I think they could become Orthodox, and I could see
Yeah,
Amritsar. I could see that temple being turned into a beautiful church. It was so nice there. Like, and they had all these martyrs and stuff that died for their faith as well, and it was shocking. Like they had like images of like the things that the Muslims and the Hindus did to them, and the martyrs for their beliefs, and it was like honestly, it was I could it's a hop, skip, and a jump from there to the true faith. I felt I didn't,
I felt that too. I felt that too in the gentleman I spoke with. It was interesting. He told me a story about his grandfather. I think was in a war, and he described this figure that came and appeared and saved him from death, and it sounded like Jesus.
yeah,
The way he described the figure it sounded like Jesus Christ to me. I didn't want
yeah,
to like I didn't want to like push that on him, but I was just kind of like listening. I was just trying to listen to him and not like push anything down his throat. I was just trying to have like a
yeah,
human, genuine conversation with him, and I don't know, that struck me. I was like, wow, you guys seem really close to orthodoxy in a weird way.
yeah. That's how I feel, and it was a beautiful. So they played music 24/7 in this temple. There's always a musician or multiple musicians playing some sort of something like a hymn. I don't know exactly what, and I befriended these guys, and they're also constantly making free food. So they
That's
feed
awesome.
like hundreds. So every day people come there and they eat, and there's constant music playing, and there's these beautiful birds, these like long-tailed birds that like fly down. I can't lie, it was
Man, it
beautiful.
sounds majestic.
It honestly was. It was maybe the most beautiful place I've like seen besides my church.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So from here, what happened after that that eventually led you to Holy Orthodoxy? How'd you get from there to Holy Orthodoxy?
Well, I think that was so crazy that I just kind of stopped searching for a while. Um, and I would talk to God all the time, but I didn't understand. Like I would think about Jesus from time to time, but it didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand the Trinity and the idea that Jesus could be God, or I didn't understand what Jesus was, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. I couldn't get him out of my mind. Like no matter what would happen to me, no matter how like close I got with other religions, there was always a part of me that I couldn't let go of Jesus. I almost became a Muslim. When I got back from India, I was dating a Muslim girl, and um, we wanted to get married. And in order to get married, I had to become a Muslim. And so I got deep into Islam, and I just was like, this is gross. Like, there's no way, dude. And the more I learned about Muhammad, I'm like, are you guys serious with this? Like I was
Yeah,
literally like, "Are you serious? Like
yeah,
you have to be joking. This you can't be. How could you think this?" And they would be like, "Yeah, Jesus was just a prophet," and I'd be like, "I
yeah.
don't know something." No matter what people said about Jesus, like the Buddhists said, "Oh, he was close to enlightenment." Muhammad said he was a prophet, and all these people would say things about him, but I never. It
Yeah,
always
all these
felt like,
different religions try to claim Jesus in a different way. You got like Christ consciousness, you got the Muslims that say he's a prophet. Everybody tries to like be like, no, Jesus, that's our dude, but he's this, like anything but him being God.
yeah, man. It's crazy. So I couldn't come to terms with that either, and so I kind of struggled against that for years. And um, what finally happened was I was demonically attacked again when I was 27, and I was started having like hallucinations. The people in my life were turning into demons in front of me, and like it was a psychotic time. I wasn't on drugs or anything. It was just like this really insane thing that was happening to me that I couldn't explain. and I just felt like this darkness in me, and I felt like I was losing my soul. And I remember I had a friend who was mastering my album at that point. His name's Joseph Grocki. He passed away a couple years ago, but he was a really great guy. And he told me we were emailing back and forth. That's how I would send him my tracks. And he asked me how I was doing, and I told him what was going on in my life and how I was scared and I had no idea what to do. And he told me to pray and to pray in Jesus' name. Mm. And I felt like maybe I should, but I was really resisting it. And I went in like that the next day, I went to the internet cafe near my house and started researching scientific arguments for Jesus, because like I really had a hard time. Like most people in the modern West, I associated Christianity with stupidity. And so I thought, oh yeah, that's just a thing that dumb people do. But I also still kind of believed in some like very back of my head sort of way. So I started trying to find a way that I could make sense of Christianity. And while I was researching, within like 20 minutes, all of a sudden I was like in tears, and I couldn't understand why. It felt like something was happening to me, and I'm in an internet cafe. I don't want anybody to see what's going on, but all of a sudden I feel the Holy Spirit. I think was the Holy Spirit like compelling me to repent. And so I ran out of the internet cafe and ran all the way home and fell down at my front door. I opened my door and fell to my knees, and I prayed to Jesus, and I repented for my sins, and I asked for Christ to help me. And that was like the beginning of the journey, because if you want to be a Christian in the modern world, it's very hard to find actual Christianity. You can find a lot of nonsense. You can find a lot of parachurches and fake and cults and people who think that they have it all figured out and stuff like that. And you can spend years going from one false church to another. And that's kind of what I did for a while before I found Orthodoxy. And once I became Orthodox, everything's changed. Like there's nothing, because no matter what I was doing, there was always this part of me that wasn't sure. There was always this part of me that's like, how do we know that this is correct? Like, the Bible says a lot of things, and every Protestant clings to one part or the other, and so they're like, this is it. And they're like, oh, don't worry, you're saved. It's all done. You're saved. It's like, am I? I don't know that I am. Like, I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior, but it doesn't, when I read the Bible, it seems like there's a lot more going on than just, once saved, always saved sort of stuff. And there's a lot of versions of that, but like I got passed around from one church to another, and I got into different YouTube people who kind of fancied themselves as teachers, like Mike Winger, James White, who's that guy with the beard, Jeff Durbin, Sam Shamoon. I got into all these different people, but it wasn't until but none of them could answer Orthodoxy, and most of them wouldn't even try. I even called into James White's show and was like, why won't James White address Orthodoxy? He spends all this time talking about how he, the Catholicism and stuff like that. It's like, but why won't he address Orthodoxy? And the showrunner was like, he just doesn't have time. His focus is in other places. It's like, this is the biggest question in the world right now. People are starting to learn about Orthodoxy, and none of you have a response to it except, oh, it's backwards, it's 7th century, it's old. And it's like, how is that a criticism? You know what I mean? It's not new enough. Oh, what, I got to go to rock church? Like, give me a break. So that eventually, through many miracles and guidance by God, I eventually was led to the Orthodox faith. And yeah, I haven't looked back even for a second. Why would I?
Yeah, no, the whole saved, like, raise your hand and like come up to the, I mean, there's no altar, but like the stage, you know, where there's like the rock bands playing, or depends on which church you go to. The one I was at, there was like a rock band, and you raise your hand and you're saved. And then baptism is just a symbol of like you come into, I don't know what they explain that as, but it was basically just a symbol. It wasn't an actual. And then you have the wafer and you got the grape juice, and I was just like, I was losing my mind. And he kept talking to me about, you know, faith alone, and salvation by faith alone, and this like grace versus works, and like it was just it kept becoming about that, and it was driving me nuts. And then one day I read the book of James, and I was just like reading the Bible, and I was like, I read the book of James on my, I was like, you know, I feel like I'm just getting these scriptures like filtered through some pastor because I'm too lazy to read it myself. So I was like, why don't I just like pick up the scriptures and like really read them and see what's going on? And I come to the book of James, and it's like faith without works is dead. And I'm like, wait, what the? I was like, that's, why don't they ever talk about the book of James in this Protestant church? I was like, I feel like they never talk about the book of James. And then come to find out, like I go to a Bible study and I bring up that verse, and the dude was like, I had an Orthodox cross already. I was Protestant. I had this teeny little Orthodox cross I was wearing, and he like flicked it like in a disrespectful way. And he like flicked the cross, and I was like, and my wife's looking at me like, are you going to hit him? And I was like, I was just smiling at her like, no, this is like a demonic attack. I was trying to like assure her. I was trying to communicate that through my eyeballs. I don't know if I did, because she was still like worried. But I was like, I didn't freak out. And I just, yeah, no, it kind of threw me off. But I was like, you know what, stay calm. I feel like this is like a demonic attack. So I just calmly posed that question. Like that, I just went to that verse in the book of James, and I was like, because he was doing this whole like sola fide kind of thing. And I was like, what about this? And he's like, yeah, that seems like it totally contradicts what I'm saying, right? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, wait, I'm gonna give you this explanation. You're gonna love it. And he just like talked about nothing for like 15 minutes and just talked in circles. And at the end of it, I was like, wait, what? What was that? And then I remember walking out of there with my wife. I remember walking out of the Bible study at this random house with my wife. And she was like, dude, I don't know what that was, but that felt like a spiritual battle. And I don't ever want to go back to that church again. And I was like, oh, for real? Because I was already Orthodox. In my head and in my heart, I was already Orthodox at this point. I had already like kind of went far enough down the church history rabbit hole, and I had these weird synchronicities happening to me. This was after our high dose psychedelic ceremony, and there was just weird stuff happening. I mean, like the next day after that ceremony, I discovered Church of the Eternal Logos, and David Patrick Harry has on, like the day after, literally the day after, I was like looking for the truth. I was just really looking for it. And he had on this gentleman, your mate Tom, who's friends with this Dakota of Earth person, who I used to follow both of them. Really just I was just really dedicated to following them, whatever they put out and whatever they were doing. And he was talking about this ceremony he went to in Peru, ayahuasca ceremony. And he had this like experience where he blacked out, he got violent, people had to hold him down. And I was like, wait, that sounds like not exactly that's almost exactly what I went through in my high dose ceremony. Like I kind of blacked out, I felt possessed, I hit somebody, I jumped into a fire, I broke my hand. Like my hand doesn't close anymore, and it's my middle finger, of course. Lord have mercy on me. But I, it was wild, man. It was a wild experience, and but thank God for it, because God used that somehow to lead me to Orthodoxy, which is just wild. But yeah, it's crazy what we have to go through sometimes to get to the church and to find the truth.
Yeah, just before I came to Orthodoxy, I was in a Bible study group with my church at the time. I was going to a Baptist church, and it was very open-ended. And the one thing that really struck me was that, sorry, my wife's giving me stuff. Hold on. The one thing that really struck me, I'm taking nicotine lately to regulate my ADHD, and I don't know if it's a bad move or not, but it is helping me. So
I've been dabbling with the Zins. I've been dabbling with the Zins. My some of my buddies, some of my ortho bros, I guess you would call them, have got me into it. Oh yeah. And I dabble on occasion.
Yeah. Well, nicotine kills parasites really well.
Right. So there's a
lot of benefits to nicotine, to be honest.
Yeah. Especially without all the like weird additives of the cigarettes and like the,
Yeah. Well, I just started it recently. I wasn't like it was a deliberate decision. It wasn't like peer pressure or anything like that. It was just like
Right.
I have a hard time. I'm very scatterbrained and kind of disheveled as a person, and so I it was becoming very difficult to do the things that I needed to do, and I became convinced. Most of my life, I say that ADHD isn't real, and I still do, but
I still kind of
then
think that
somebody
too.
showed me brain scans of somebody with ADHD versus someone without, and parts of my brain are smaller. I have a small brain. Like it's the part that your inhibitions, the part that controls your inhibitions, memory, and a third thing that I always forget, which is funny because memory, but those three things are shrunk. And so it really is, the things that motivate you to actually do things are like, it's, you have like an inability to do things even if you really want to. And so, I did some research and I thought it might be a good move, and so I've been trying it out, and it's helping. I think, I got to find a happy medium. I'm getting everything
Right.
I need to get done though, and I'm able to recall a lot better. It's honestly, it seems to be working, so I'm going with it for now. If it becomes an issue, then we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Right. Right.
Sorry, I was talking about the Bible study, but yeah, when I was going to like this sort of Baptist church, but it was open ended, because here's the thing: it goes like this. It goes high church Protestantism into low church Protestantism into Baptist church into um a sort, what's it called, non-denominational, and
Right.
everybody there is just kind of doing their own thing. The Bible means whatever you want it to mean, and that was my Bible study. I love these people, but all of them thought entirely different things, and I was
Yeah.
reading
The
the Bible.
inconsistency drove me nuts.
Yeah, and I was reading the Bible constantly back then. And I would always be like, that's not what it says. Like, I know it doesn't say that. I can see that it doesn't say that. And my pastor would say one thing, this other person, everyone would say something different. And it wasn't it wasn't until I found Orthodoxy. Everything that I was reading in the Bible was reflected in Orthodoxy. And it was like, oh, okay, there it is. You're saying what I think this is saying. And constantly, over and over again, everything that I saw the Bible saying but Protestants not saying, the Orthodox Church was. And so finally I came to, it was a transition of a couple weeks. I think you heard this part, but yeah, it was basically like, after going to the Orthodox Church just as a test for 4 weeks, I couldn't leave. It was like, even it was like, even if I have issues with icons and stuff like that, which I did at the time, I was struggling with iconography and struggling with certain concepts, and I'm a rebellious person, so hierarchy is very difficult for me. Even though I
Yep.
know I need it, even though I know I need guidance, I'm like, I really kick against it. Even now,
Yep.
my priests have a lot to deal with me, but it was like, even though I don't have this stuff covered, I know that this is where God is. Like, and so I have to be here. I don't want to be anywhere else. And so that began the journey to becoming Orthodox.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. I've always had a problem with authority too, because I grew up as a skateboarder. So duh, like it's kind of, you just run around and skateboard wherever I was constantly getting in conflicts with cops, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It goes hand in hand, like disrespecting authority and skateboarding. It's like that's what skateboarding is about, pretty much. If you're
It
a
feels
street
like that's
skater,
it feels like that's what being an American is about. Like, we're founded on people telling the British monarchy to go F themselves, and we're like, no, we don't listen to anybody. It's just cowboy mentality. Separate from your family, go off, do your own thing. Everything that people have traditionally lived with is just exited the building, and we're all just like these autonomous rebels with no cause whatsoever.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, it kind of I'm kind of grateful for that upbringing with the skateboarding because it helped a lot during 2020. I was like, screw this. You're telling me to put on a mask? I was like, screw
Yeah,
you, bro. I'm gonna walk into freaking Target and I've got no mask and I dare someone to say something to me. It was kind of like I
yeah,
like reveled in that, disrespect, like just that going against the authority. And like it was it was a beautiful time for me, which it but then it was like, and now what? Like where do I go from here? And then like I was still in Protestantism, I was still in yoga, and I still had so many questions. And I still consider myself, I guess, a truther to some extent. I just consider the ultimate truth Christ and his church
yep,
that he established through his apostles, through the apostolic fathers, through the church fathers, down the line, 2,000 years.
yeah.
And it's
The
beautiful.
gates of hell will not prevail against it.
100%. So since coming to Orthodoxy, have you noticed any changes like in your music and in your art?
Yeah. Well, and at first I had a period where I wasn't really making anything. I was just like,
Right, dude. I was like when I came to Orthodoxy, I'm like, how do I do things?
yeah.
Because a
Well,
lot
but
of my, yeah, go
no,
ahead.
you go.
Because like a lot of the art I was into was very, it was dark and demonic. I was into VHS. I'd make VHS mixtapes. I made this one called the Regurgitate, and it was basically to like test human limits of like what you can watch and just without like puking or freaking out. Like I was very into like shock value, G.G. Allen, like really grotesque, disturbing films like Regurgitated Sacrifice. It was a dark time.
I've never heard of
But
that.
yeah, no, I wouldn't look it up. I don't recommend it. But it was basically, I'm just trying to give an idea of like where I was at spiritually. I wasn't
Yeah.
in a good place. I was in a very like disturbing place. And when I came to Orthodoxy, I mean, I wasn't still necessarily in that dark of a place, but I wasn't that far away from it. And I just didn't know
Right.
like how do I make art as an Orthodox Christian? And I'm still trying to navigate it a little bit. Like I do hip hop a little bit. I've never put out an album, but I just like freestyling, and I don't know. It's just it's a unique thing to kind of navigate. Like, how do I do this as an Orthodox Christian?
Yeah. Well, everything changes, and your whole life uh becomes what's the word? Not subservient. Um, your life, the Christ is first. The church is first, and everything in your life must conform to that. And obviously, we make a billion mistakes every single day, but um, one thing I could say, because first, you know, I like my music so much better now. I don't even like my old stuff compared to my new stuff. Well, I had a brief period where I was like really getting into Protestantism, where I was trying to make like Christian music, and I hated Christian music, dude. There's like 3 different Christian music radio stations up here, and I there's not one song that I like. Like it's all just it's so sappy and it's so forced. It's like,
So
let's make
true.
a song that sounds like this song, but we'll make it about Jesus and about, but also mostly about us and about how great we are. You love me so much. You think I'm so special. You know what I mean? Like that
Right.
sort of thing. Um, oh, I just realized my background. Do you hear music coming through? No, no. Okay.
No, I don't hear any.
And I just couldn't stand it, so I thought I'd try that. And I was like, I don't know, I'd try and make Christian music, and I do not like the stuff I made during that time because it was like I was trying to. I don't know, I don't like it. But once I became Orthodox, then it was like the world opened up to me. I could talk about whatever I wanted because now I'm in this sort of place where Orthodoxy underpins everything anyway, and I don't have to pretend that the struggle is over. A big thing when I was a Protestant was I was like constantly trying to project this image of like, I'm solved, I'm perfect now, everything's great. And so I was always like, I would like kind of fancy myself the guy with the answers, and I would kind of you had to project, look, I was bad but now I'm good, I was
Right.
lost but I'm found, everything's fine now. And it was BS. You know, I still struggle. I still struggle with my sin. But
Yeah.
now I see the struggle as a lifelong thing, and everything has its proper context. And now my music is true. My music's true. There's no pretense in it. I'm struggling. Oh, you know, I went off the deep end. It's all very honest now. I don't even listen to my old stuff. I only listen to the stuff I'm working on now because it's from the heart. Even if it's dark, even if it goes into a dark place, it goes into a dark place. You know, the Psalms are very dark. Some
Yeah,
of them.
they are. They're great for spiritual warfare.
Yeah, but I don't see like why can't I talk about the darkness? Why can't I talk about the struggle? I don't have to
Right.
pretend that everything's fine. I'm reaching out to God. Everything is me reaching out to God, not necessarily, you know, I don't have to project an image of being solved. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. Speaking of like your music, you have this one song, I don't know the name of it. It's like it was talking about the Trinity though, like God the Father,
Oh
God the
yeah,
Son, God the Spirit. Did you make that when you were Protestant or Orthodox?
yeah, yeah.
God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. He is three and He is one, and He is infinite. I could feel the Spirit move when I venture near Him. Now I yearn to be reproved.
Some of it was okay. I made this. I started this thing called.
So
Sheep
you
Song.
were Protestant when you made that.
Yeah,
It was
I was
fire though.
trained.
It's still fire. It's still fire. You're talking about the Trinity. Hey,
Thanks.
I kind
Yeah,
of dig that one.
I made this little album called Sheep Song. I made 2 albums during that time. One was what is it called? Hold on. Let me find out.
Yeah, no worries.
One of them was called Kingdom, and that was a 4-track album, and that was my attempt to make something that was like really good and really pristine, but about God and like very Christian. And it's not bad. I might cringe at it a little. I don't know. You can listen to it. You tell me what you think. But then
Yeah, I might have to check it out.
and then I also released something called Sad Boy, which I released because there was a person in my church who really was into the sad boy movement, like the, you know, that kind of like it started with that one dude with the pink hair. What was his name? Lil Peep. Like kind
Oh,
of
okay.
that. And I was like, you can be sad. You know, I think our natural condition is sad because we're separated from God. But let's contextualize it and let's talk about, you know, why. And I think that's pretty good. I don't listen to it. I don't really like anything before I became Orthodox, but I think it's pretty good. You might like it. I can't listen to a lot of my stuff, you know.
Yeah, I'm
But
similar.
yeah, so those 2 I made. Sad Boy was made in the transition to me becoming Orthodox, though. So, you know, it might be a little better. But yeah. That song, that video was made then. Um, a lot of that stuff I'm not probably ever going to release, or maybe I'll revisit it and see if I can make it good. I don't know.
The artwork on your albums, do you do the art yourself?
Yeah, I do all the art myself. I've been drawing as long as I've been drawing for longer than I've been making music. I've always been bad at it, but I've always loved to do it. And then
I think your art's pretty dope, man. I like that kind of style. I don't know if you're familiar with Soul from Anticon, Bottle of Humans.
let me
He
look.
released an album called Bottle of Humans, and the art on there is like, I guess it's kind of bad, but I don't know. It looks cool to me. It looks rad. Like I think I don't know. It's just
Oh, that's
unique, kind
cool.
of like Right? Yeah, no, he's off Anticon Records. He rapped with Dose One. And speaking of Dose One, you know who Dose One is. I brought him up in your
Yeah.
stream. I was bringing up Cloud Dead, and I was like, hey, I'm getting like Cloud Dead vibes a little bit. How'd you find out
Yeah.
about Dose One?
That was in Philly. I lived in Philly for years, and there's this guy, Joseph Rosser, this brilliant saxophonist, and we started a little band for like a week, and then he couldn't put up with me, and so he left. He even lived with me, and he was like, I can't live with you, I can't be in a band with you, like I just can't, you're an insane person. And so he left, but we made some cool stuff in the meantime, and he introduced me to Cloud Dead, and yeah, I really got into that album, the one with Dead Dogs 2 and whatnot in it.
Yeah, I think that was off the 10 album, Cloud Dead 10, I think.
Yeah, that's their second one, right? The first one's self-titled.
Yeah, the first one, man, that one blew my freaking mind. I think it was like Apartment A, and it just like comes in. It's just this sound, this noise. It like starts at nothing, and then it just slowly builds, and it's like this weird, ominous kind of like I don't know what the heck it is, but I remember hearing that and just not knowing what to make of it. I was like, this is like, you can do this in hip hop. I didn't even know like this was a possibility.
Yeah, I gotta re-listen to that. But yeah, I always liked, like I was never a huge hip hop head. I got into hip hop mainly because I produced hip hop in Philly. The way I made a living was producing hip hop.
Yeah, your beats, like I hear your beats, I'm like your beats are so like, a lot of them sound hip hop to me. I'm like, dang, I could freestyle over this, or I could write, like I really
feel free
dig
to rap over the beats I sent you. You can do whatever you want with them. I might do stuff with them too. I hope that's cool, but you can.
Yeah, I know. I'm not
gonna like copyright them or anything. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm not like I'm not an official, like I've never put out anything official. I'm not like, I kind of just have fun with my music, and just I just like freestyling, like at parties or with people, or just like having a good time, and just kind of like, I wish ciphers were still around. Like that's why I always like the East Coast. I like imagine people just like walking around and like ciphering, and I don't know if it's actually like that, but maybe it was at one point.
I mean, there was a lot of people attempting to freestyle back,
right,
back on the East Coast. Not everybody. I don't know. In Philly, there's a huge battle rap scene, or there was when I was there. Nobody in Philly nobody got big in Philly until like Meek Mill. But before that, we were just everyone was known for battle rap. No artist got big. Gilly the Kid got big, but not even that big. And then Meek Mill got big. And I think Rick Ross might have been from Philly. I'm not sure. But for now you have those new guys that are from hell. What's that guy's name? Skrilla. Dude, that guy's from
I don't even know.
Oh my god. I talked about his song on one of my streams recently because it's so, oh my gosh. Like I can't listen to it. It is attractive to me, I'm not gonna lie, but I don't listen to it because it's just, this is awful. But like it's so sloppy, but like intentionally sloppy. It just sounds like he barely tried, but it kind of works.
Yeah, what is it?
He does Santeria, like he like.
Oh man, dude, yeah, Santeria. I'm familiar. I walked into this store in San Diego a little bit before we moved, and it was like this weird kind of hood mall thing, and like there's this downstairs, and me and my wife went downstairs, and it was like a whole Santeria section, and of course they have like a little Catholic section in there too, but then they have this like altar with like a Grim Reaper. Kind of like, it was tripped out. Yeah, it was. And me and my wife were like standing in this one area, and we're like, what? Like, there's this weird. She was like, does your heart feel tight? I was like, yeah, my heart's like tightening up. I was like, I feel like we should get out of here. I was like, I don't know. And there was like straight up witches in there, and we were just like, what are we even doing down here? And we got out of there pretty quick, but I could just feel my heart tightening as I was walking around there, and it was tons of Santeria and like spells and all kinds of crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that stuff. That's why I talked about this I talk about this all the time on my stream, but it's like I almost don't listen to most music because as a musician and as a producer, I know there are so many ways that you can put curses and spells in your music. I mean, so
Yep.
many ways. There was like a big movement past couple of years called Brazil funk. Have you heard of Brazil funk?
It sounds familiar. I probably heard it before, but off the top of my head, yeah, I'm not sure.
It's like it's ridiculous, but it's I mean, I always get attracted to every new type of music. Whenever something new comes out, like I get drawn to it, and I have to like fight it off. And this Brazil funk has got this like this disheveled, aggressive sound. It's like the most, everything is blown out. It's like you can hear it being made in a shack on Fruity Loops with a pair of speakers, and they're just cranking up the bass so they can hear it out of these tiny speakers. It's the most like insane sounding music. But
is it similar to like I think it's called sambo? Is it sambo or I think there's like a Southern American Brazilian type of music that's like where the beats are kind of like the drums are kind of off, and they also sampled that in the Black Eyed Peas track Falling Up. We be falling up, never falling down, keep it at a higher level, elevated ground, something like that. But the beats it's kind of funky, kind of like the beat they sampled.
I'm not
I don't know
sure.
if it's I could be saying the name wrong, but it's like this Brazilian style of music where the beats are kind of off, but on, like in between, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the music, the Latin American music, has a sort of swing to it that a lot of, more Western music doesn't have. They have a kind of lurch to it. There's a lot to like Latin American music, like a rich history. One of my drummers back in when I was called Games, he was like super. He was I think Puerto Rican, and he was like crazy about Latin American drums, and there's such a history in that sort of music, and a lot of rhythmic innovation that you don't see anywhere else.
Yeah, it reminds me of this documentary called Brazil in Time, where these hip-hop producers went out to Brazil and they played this concert with these old Brazilian drummers, like famous drummers, and they're super old. And Mad Lib was out there, the guy who did the production for MF Doom. A lot of the they did Mad Villain together, which was super dope. And like there were some other producers, pretty like I guess famous in the underground hip hop, but most mainstream people wouldn't know of them. I think J-Rock was one of them, if I'm not mistaken. But it was a really cool, pretty cool documentary, and the concert was pretty awesome. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. I haven't seen that for a while. I think I lost that DVD in storage. Track down another one.
What was it called again?
Brazil in Time. Brazil in Time. I think it's all one word. I'm not sure, but it was awesome. You might dig it. As a producer and just a musician in general.
Yeah, I love anytime I hear something that I've never heard before, I get obsessed for a little while. And that's kind of what happened with the Brazil funk. And I started listening to it all the time. And then I started noticing, because I couldn't understand the words, which was part why I liked it. I was like, cool, I don't even hear them saying awful things. And I would just vibe. And then I started looking at the names of the songs, and one of them was just called Demonic Curse.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
It really was a demonic curse. And I remember listening to it and feeling my heart like close up. And I was like, I have to stop listening to this stuff. And
wow, that's so crazy.
But yeah, there's a lot of like ways to do that in music and so I'm super careful about what I take in these days. Like I don't just let anything in. Luckily, I have like infinity music, so I can just mostly listen to my own stuff. Also, there's a college radio station up here called KRUA that I really like. They play a lot of cool like independent artists and stuff. And if I'm not listening to that, I'm just listening to my own music now, just because you never know where. There's so many ways, especially with pop music. With pop music, you can, oh my gosh, there are so many ways to hide. Like, I don't know, I'm not a Protestant, so I'm not like, back when I was a Protestant, I was like terrified of everything. Now I'm like a little more, I'm like, oh, that symbol, now you relax a little bit. You understand that it's, once you have the actual faith, you don't have to like make it up and get freaked out by everything. You know what I mean? Like back when I was a Protestant, I'd be like constantly like, oh, that's a secret this, and they're tricking me. But I'm a lot calmer now, but still, I don't want to let darkness in willingly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. I hear that because I got really into like collecting VHS tapes. I'm still into collecting VHS and like retro memorabilia, and the VHS community is like predominantly kind of liberal minded, and it thrives on like horror, like kind of just weird, obscure horror films are some of the most sought after VHS tapes. And some of them are just terrible films. Some of them are just really bad movies with like really cool cover art, or they just kind of fell off the face of the earth and maybe didn't get transferred over to another format. So they're just kind of like on VHS. And but it's like nowadays I can't really watch horror like I used to be able to. Like maybe once in a while I could watch something if it's kind of like maybe comedic too, but like I don't know, even there sometimes I have to be cautious, and I'm just like a lot more aware and discerning of what I'm putting in my eyes and my ears and all that, especially since coming to Orthodoxy.
Yeah, you have to be. That makes me think of three things. That makes me think, one, I got into like the VHS channel, YouTube channels where they find lost media. There's a lot of those now.
Yeah, I used to do that at the beginning of my channel. I would go to thrift stores. I still do. I just don't film it all the time. But it's like I love hunting at thrift stores for tapes and like
cool.
records.
You can't really do
and
that
like,
in Alaska.
right?
We're not connected to anybody. In the lower 48, you can find all sorts of stuff because somebody will come through town, but nobody's coming through town. Everybody's just here. You know, we're completely sequestered from the rest of the world. So you don't get like cool thrift store finds in Alaska. Don't bother.
Right? Yeah.
I have found icons. I always buy an icon.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. You always buy an icon if you see it, just because someone might try and buy it and desecrate it, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, I found it's interesting. That makes me think of when I was first coming to Orthodoxy, I found an icon of Christ, Pantocrator, and it was like within a month of coming to Orthodoxy and like starting to attend the church. And then about 2 months after that, my wife found a icon of the Theotokos. I think it was the Passion of the Theotokos, where he loses Christ loses his shoe because he had woken up from a premonition of him being hung on the cross.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and that one's been kind of following me. That icon has been following me, and it literally followed me on this trip we took to where we moved up here up north. Like we were going to put it in storage. We have this massive icon, Theotokos icon of that we came upon in a really unique way in like in a mall where I'd never seen this dude before in the mall, and he was selling icons. I was like, what are you doing in Parkway Plaza selling icons? It was just so unique. I was like, I gotta buy this, and because I don't want it to go to like, I don't know, the wrong place, like, you know. But so that we were going to put that in storage, and we had everything packed up, and we did our last run to storage, and we like returned everybody was like gone that was helping us, and we had no more space and like no more time, and we just had and I was like, and we were packing things up, and there's the icon of the Theotokos, the Passion, and I was like, I guess she's coming with us. So she's here with us, which is pretty cool. It like literally followed us. Oh, nice.
It's beautiful icon.
That's one of the ones you found at the thrift?
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, because it's really, so here's the thing. I've been going to thrift stores like for, I mean, not my whole life, but for a long time, just like many years, like, and I've never seen icons before I came to Orthodoxy. I don't know if it was because I was just not looking, but I don't think it's that, because I would have picked it up. I would have noticed that, because I've always had Christ in the back of my head just growing up Catholic. And I would have at least noticed it. I've never seen an icon of Christ or the Theotokos before or after that little month period when I was first coming into Orthodoxy.
Wow.
I thought that was kind of a trip. Back to psychedelics. What was your experience like with psychedelics? Like what psychedelics were you dabbling with, and what did those experiences like? What were they like for you?
Well, God preserved me from it a lot. When I was trying to get my hands on acid and mushrooms, it was basically impossible to get. And so I only had a few experiences, and they were all very wonky and unsettling. And then, you know, spiritual-esque, quasi-spiritual at the end. I don't know. They were... I definitely want nothing to do with anything like that. You know what I mean? Like I no part of me wants to be really under the influence. Sometimes I like to take the edge off. I'll drink a little bit of whiskey, but otherwise I don't really like to, you know, because for me, you know, I had like one or two experiences with mushrooms, one or two experiences with acid, and it was always just like the world would like kind of bend and everything would change around you. But it wasn't so different from the things that would happen to me when I smoked weed. So it wasn't like that crazy, because for some reason weed had a really strange effect on me. And it's like the channel changes, and I don't like that. Like I never want that again, because every time even when I would smoke, every time I smoked, it felt like I was locked in. It felt like I'm never going to get out of this. So mushrooms felt like I'm never going to get out of this. Acid felt like it always felt like you've made a huge mistake and now you're trapped in here with the demons.
dude, that's what, yeah, no, that's what happened to me out in that high dose psychedelic ceremony I had with my wife that was referred to as a Wamkish. It was on native land, and we took 15 grams of like psilocybin mushrooms. I had done like the 5G in darkness, you know, heroic dose or whatever, but yeah, I'd never done 15 grams. You know, and man, I really felt like it was a trip, man. There was this demonic voice that came eventually in my head, and it was like, it was telling me, it was trying to erase the memory of my son from my memory. And it was like, it was freaking me out. And it was telling me, if you want to see your son again, your son's on the other side of death, and you need to like jump in the fire. And there was a fire that we had just kind of walked away from. There was like this fire we were sitting around. I'd walked away from the circle, and everybody was kind of disbanding at this point, but there was still a couple people over there. And I leapt into the fire. I like swan dove into the fire, and I just laid there. I was just laying there, just like ready to kind of die. But it wasn't that, the fire wasn't that big at this point, but it was big enough to like burn me permanently on like my chest and on my side. And someone had to pull me out of the fire. And my wife's like watching all this just in shock, like not knowing what to do. She's on 15 grams too, you know, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
And
we're all high.
Yeah, exactly. There was a couple helpers there that were like not on mushrooms, but they were high as heck on, like, we were passing around, like, I think there was like 50 doobies at least being passed around. And it was just, I was like, I've never smoked this much weed in my life. It was madness. But I remember being like, there was this feeling of like, I remember her looking up at the stars, and just, we had been watching the stars the whole night leading up to that point. It was like a nighttime ceremony. It started at 9 p.m. And she was like, did the stars disappear, or am I hallucinating? And I look up and the stars are gone. Stars are totally gone. And there's like almost this like cover of darkness over us. It was like, I don't know how to explain it, but the only way I could explain it is when I read about it in the Gurus, the Young Men and Elder Paisios. When I read that book, there was a guy who was going back and forth between ashrams and Mount Athos. And he said he was in this like room, and he was looking out outside his window, and there was like, he could see street lights. And then all of a sudden there was this darkness that blocked out the street lights. And I was like, oh, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And it kind of clicked. Things were just starting to click as I was coming into Orthodoxy. Like, that's one of the synchronicities, like one of a multitude of others, you know? And I was like, something real happened there, and I can't explain it, but it felt like I was in that ceremony. I felt like I was stuck in this like eternal, I don't know if it was eternal, but it just felt like a very thick, nasty darkness that I was kind of stuck in. And it felt like it was going to be permanent. And I remember seeing some of the other gentlemen there was like some ex-military folks that were trying to go there for healing, for PTSD and whatnot. And I remember seeing some of them kind of spin around and talking to themselves, and it just kind of clicked in my head. I was like, man, this is how those people that you see on the streets walking around talking to themselves, like, this is how you get here. You go too far on the trip and you never come back. Yeah.
I mean, but it doesn't have to even be something strong. That's the thing. There's been, and this is my theory, and I've, people can take it for what it is, but I've thought about this a lot. And almost every case of schizophrenia that I've looked into always starts with, I smoked something at a party, and then something entered me, and never left. And all this, psychologists and all the geniuses are like, oh, well, you depersonalized and it's a thing. And then the schizophrenic is like, no, it's an alien entity. They're talking to me through, and nobody understands. Like, broski, we've been talking about this forever. It's a demon, man.
Yep.
It's literally a demon. And you can get one-shotted. That's why I like beg people not to mess with drugs at all, because it takes one time. Go smoke some weed at a party, and that's what happened to me. I mean, I'm not schizophrenic by the grace of God, but I've had experiences with demons because of it. And it only takes one time. This stuff can happen to you so quickly. People change overnight. He was a normal, nice boy, and then he came back one night. He said, and he's never been the same since. So often it starts with, I smoked something or I took something, because you're opening yourself up to the spiritual realm in a way that we're not meant to, and you think you're getting all these answers. People think they're getting all these answers, and yeah, they'll tell you some answers. They might even predict the future, but that's no feat. The demons exist on a different time than we do, but you're not actually getting anywhere except further from God and further into delusion. And so I'm always like talking to people about this, like, and here's another thing about schizophrenia. They found that going to church works better than medication.
Dude. Yeah, I've always thought that schizophrenia was a spiritual dilemma, like that it was coming from a spiritual. I've always felt that, and a lot of people think I'm like, I don't know, just tripping on that one. But I think there's something to it. I think because like the I've been around schizophrenics when I was even really young. There was an old lady I used to smoke weed with. We'd go over to her house and she would have like episodes. And I remember when they would go to the other like personality, it would always be demonic. It would always be like it would never tell them like go play with butterflies. It would be like something super dark. It would be something, like it would never be like up. They'd never like come with something uplifting. It would always be something super sketchy, like stab your like uncle in the face or something, like I'm like, that sounds demonic.
Yeah. And the hallucinations are always things like, seeing demons, seeing people catch on fire, all sorts of stuff like that. And I definitely think there's a spiritual aspect, and that's not to talk poorly about schizophrenics, because I actually
no, not at all.
I have a further theory that a lot of people this happens to, and the only difference is schizophrenics are aware that something's wrong. I think a lot of people are walking around full of demons and have no idea. They think it's their own inner monologue.
And that's even worse.
Yeah. I think that you see tons of people that, and they're inhabited, but they can't differentiate between their own thoughts and the demons talking to them, which is something you become very clear about in Orthodoxy. And the rest, outside of Orthodoxy, I don't think you really understand what's going on in the world and how much you're being attacked. But I think schizophrenics are just sensitive souls who are aware of something that's going on with a lot of people.
Dude, wow, that's really well put. Yeah, with the concept of like the logismy and all that, the planting of like thoughts in your head, and just the way to navigate that in Orthodoxy, like, kind of let it pass by and don't give it too much attention, and don't interact with it with your imagination in that regard too much, and let it form a bird's nest in your head, but just kind of let it fly over. Like it can be very useful in that regard.
Well, you can latch onto a dark thought and it can take over your life for years. You can latch on to a demonic attack, give it credence, let it lead you, and it could augment the entire trajectory of your life for, people, sometimes an entire lifetime. You have to be able to recognize when something's coming from without. You have to be able to recognize, and that's why we cross ourselves. Because we cross ourselves, we say the Jesus prayer, or if you notice a thought that you're like, that's dark or upsetting or stuff like that, often that's coming from without, and my priest taught me another one for when you're having like kind of like what's it called? Like intrusive thoughts or something like that. He
Right,
said,
right.
Lord, just say, Lord, cleanse me a sinner, and these sorts of things. It's pouring boiling water on the demons when you pray. The last thing they want you to do is pray. They want you to take what they're saying seriously and go down a dark path and either hurt yourself or hurt somebody else. But when you pray, it's like pouring boiling water on them. It's unbearable to them. And so the fact that so many people are walking around and not praying, not realizing just how powerful it is, it's honestly a testament to what a fallen age we live in.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that really clearly when me and my wife started participating. My wife and I started participating in pro-life vigils. We would go outside of Planned Parenthood and we would pray and just do like a mulligan and another service and be led by a priest or a reader. And at one point, I think it was like during the Roe versus Wade political situation, I think it was like right after that, there was a bunch of leftist kind of people or Antifa. I'm not sure what to categorize them as. Maybe Antifa. They had like masks on and they would come with blowhorns and just like yell super obscene things in your face. And I'd be like, and I remember just learning really quickly to just not engage with them. Like, just don't engage. We would be over here like the Orthodox Christians. We would have like a little spot, and there would also be Protestants kind of over here in a different area. And they couldn't tell the difference. They thought we were all the same people. They didn't know. But the Protestants would engage with them, and they would try to talk to them, and they would try to do this and that, and it would end up like just in a shouting match, and they would drag them into this low place where it was always just not good. It never ended well for them. But I remember they would come to us and we would just keep praying and like just stay focused on the prayers. And I was like, just don't feed into like any of it just seemed like demons trying to distract you from prayer, like manifesting through people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, if we just stay focused on our prayers, like it almost feels like they can't touch us. I'm sure that it was interesting.
Wow.
But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I did one of those too a couple of years ago. I got a blessing to do a rally outside the only abortion clinic in Alaska, and that was people would scream insults at you as they drove by, and it wasn't. I mean, you were probably in San
Diego.
So yeah, you get the brunt of it over there with the leftists and whatnot, And the crazy thing is, I talk about this all the time on my show, is because they lack Christ, because they don't have the truth, they latch onto these ideas, and the only way that you can show your faith is through hatred. To them, hatred is how you demonstrate your loyalty, how you demonstrate that you're a good person. There is no love in it. It's hating the correct people. That's how you show that you're good.
Wow, that's an interesting observation. I never thought of it like that. But I kind of have, but not in that exact way. That's kind of cool how you put that.
Well, I used to kind of be a leftist,
I was a leftist. I was a leftist as well for a while.
Yeah. And that was like a big thing, was like hating the right people, calling them names, saying that they're evil, but that was how you demonstrated. That's how you got likes. That's how you got retweets. That was how you demonstrated that you were a good person, was by hating the right people. I think about that all the time now.
That's interesting. Yeah, well, I think we're getting to the end of the show. We're at about an hour and a half, a little bit over. But before we wrap, is there any like final thoughts, or is there any message you want to leave the people with as like a final word to wrap up before we wrap up the show?
Well, I always end my show by saying, if you're not Orthodox, become Orthodox. And if you are Orthodox, go to church.
Amen. That's a good way to end, brother. Yeah, right. No, it's been super cool talking to you, man. I feel like we've got tons to talk about, and we could probably even do another stream in the future, or collab in different ways. Like, who knows? But I really,
to.
yeah, no, I'm definitely open to that too. Yeah, if you guys like this, go ahead and like the video, leave some comments below, and let us know what you guys think. Definitely be sure to check out Hello Listener. His YouTube channel is called Hello Listener, and you also have a YouTube channel called Colossal Squid Records, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me. There's a lot of places with different things. Like I have a couple Hello Listener SoundClouds, a Colossal Squid Records SoundCloud. I have a Colossal Squid Records.bandcamp.com. There's a whole bunch of releases under there. HelloListener.bandcamp.com goes into like my way back stuff. There's some stuff there. And then, yeah, but I have my Colossal Squid Records YouTube where I'll still release things there occasionally. Lately, I've just been releasing exclusively on the Hello Listener YouTube. I've been releasing music on there. I just released an album like a month or two ago called If I Forgive Them, Who Will Kill Them? Which
That's a rad name for an album. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's about wrestling with I
read that title and I was like, dang, that sounds like something I would say. Lord have mercy on me. But
yeah, yeah, seriously. That's like that's kind of the idea, is wrestling with this like very, like, we live in such unjust times where we see so much evil, and like you want to do something about it. You like, and so I'm always wrestling. Even in my show, you'll see me get really out of pocket. I'm out of pocket, but I'm just a real person. I'm just wrestling with these things and I'm trying to be good. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what that's kind of what drew me to you, is just that genuineness. Like, you're not faking the funk, and I could just kind of feel that. It kind of comes through in your videos and in your music, and just trying to have genuine conversations with real people. And I feel like this was one of the best ones I've had so far. So
yeah,
I really appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, man. It was great being here.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll definitely put some links below in the description of like your channel and some other things, and like the Bandcamp or whatever. Some of the best places to find you, I'll definitely put those in the description so people can find you easily and click those and come check you out.
Yeah, and I'll try and make it to the premiere so we can hang out and chat.
Yeah, it should be in like a few days or so, depending on how the editing goes. I don't edit too crazy, but I want to throw a little intro in and a couple things, but nothing too crazy, so shouldn't be too long.
All right, cool. All right, man.
All right, brother. It's been fun.
Likewise. Take it easy.
Till next time.